The 4th century Council of Nicaea formalized the tradition of 40 days of Lent from Ash Wednesday to Easter, during which only weekdays are counted as fasting days, when it was forbidden to eat meat including poultry, animal fats, milk, or eggs. The practice of eating fish on Friday, still followed by many Catholics today, was written about in the 1st century AD. According to false Christian teaching, Jesus died on a Friday, and people fasted as a sacrifice in his memory. The Roman Catholic Church started their 40 days of Lent, so let's look at where the tradition started, and that's Babylon. In Babylon, Nimrod was worshipped as the sun god, and his wife, some say she was his mother too, Semiramis, was the moon goddess. After Nimrod was killed by Shem, son of Noah, Semiramis claimed to have an immaculate conception of Nimrod's son, whom she named Tammuz, the reincarnation of Nimrod. The Bible records that the Israelites practiced weeping for Tammuz. After God had Ezekiel look into the temple and see every sort of creeping thing, abominable beasts, and all the idols of the house of Israel, portrayed all around on the walls, God showed Ezekiel more abominations. You will see them doing things that are even more detestable. So he brought me to the door of the north gate of the Lord's house, and to my dismay, women were sitting there weeping for Tammuz. Ezekiel 8 verses 13 to 14. Then God showed Ezekiel that the men were worshipping the sun, Nimrod. Then he said to me, "Have you seen this, O son of man? Turn again, you will see greater abominations than these." So he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and there, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of the Lord and their faces toward the east, and they were worshipping the sun toward the east. Ezekiel 8 verses 15 to 16. So God clearly detests the worship of Tammuz of Babylon, and he hates sun worship. And the observance of Lent is clearly a representation of worshipping Tammuz of Babylon. The Philistines offered a great sacrifice to Dagon, believing that their idol had delivered Samson into their hands. 1 Chronicles 10 verse 10 mentions a temple of Dagon in which the head of King Saul was fastened. Then, in 1 Samuel 5, Dagon is brought to humiliation by the true God of the Israelites. Samson destroys the temple of Dagon. Introduction. We are told of how Samson destroyed the Philistine temple of Dagon in Judges 16 verses 23 to 30. 23. Now the rulers of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon their god and to celebrate, saying, "Our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands." Upon every bishop as well as every pope you will find the fish head mitre of Babylon. The fish head mitre comes from worshippers of Dagon from around 300 AD. His symbol was a hat shaped like a fish's mouth with a long piece of cloth that draped down over the back of the wearer, which was painted or embroidered to look like the body of a fish. Here's a final thought. The Papal Church uses symbols to convey the true meaning of things, even though Catholics may think that they represent something else. On Ash Wednesday, which marks the beginning of the 40 days of Lent, Catholics receive a T on their forehead. Ash on the forehead represents the cross. But the top leaders of the Papal Church know that it symbolizes Tammuz. The day before Ash Wednesday, many people will celebrate the feast before the fast with Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras, French for Fat Tuesday, as we know it today, actually comes from the tradition called Shrovetide. Shrovetide was the final celebration before Lent. During Lent, people would typically wear dark clothing, abstain from meat and rich foods, and avoid celebrations. Therefore, Shrove Tuesday, the day before Lent, provided people with an opportunity to engage in one last celebration, drunkenness and sexual acts with no confession needed for any undesirable behavior. This is a form of religious fertility festival, also wearing colorful costumes and decorations, and use up the rich foods in their homes. The festival starts the counting to Easter 40 days. During the time of Passover after the second day we are commanded to count the Omer for 7 weeks or 49 days. This is just the opposite of Lent, a non-biblical religious event never mentioned in the Bible. The counting of the 7 weeks following Passover. You shall count from the eve of the second day of Pesach, when an omer of grain is to be brought as an offering, 7 complete weeks. The day after the 7th week of your counting will make 50 days, and you shall present a new meal offering to God. Leviticus 23 verses 15 to 16. Why is this so important? At Pentecost, the Feast of Weeks, on this day the Torah was given. 3,000 committed themselves to Torah and were filled with the Holy Spirit, with Peter fulfilling the prophecy of Joel 2:32, just as Jesus had abstained from earthly ministry until his baptism, when the Holy Spirit came upon him. Luke 24. John the Baptist was in prison during this feast and the time of Herod. Jesus started his ministry in Galilee. Jesus spent 40 days, from the time of his resurrection till the day of his ascension into Haven. Shavuot, or Feast of Weeks. The Catholic Church replaced the Omer with Lent, making the Pope supreme leader and decreasing Jesus to a lower non-biblical value. Nothing happens on man-made feast days ordained by men. We will view more of these feasts in videos to come. Until next post, Shalom.